Before we get to who I am, just some words of gratitude. Firstly, want to thank our wonderful hosts for opening their homes to us, Kim and Raymond Amzalag, and
Ilana.
I know her name. I'm just looking for her.
He's in the picture.
Okay, and Ilana. Okay, wonderful. Thank you so much for doing this. We've been back and forth for years about making this happen. Baruch Hashem, this time it happened, and we're here. And thank you for putting out a beautiful spread and for hosting all these wonderful, holy brothers and sisters. And thanks as well to my good friends Leslie and Michael Tuggetman for being here and for sponsoring as well. And also in memory of Eliakim Alexander Ben Avram Vehena Tamar, another friend of mine and theirs as well, who passed away almost 2 years ago. Thank you again also to our sponsor, Jill Robinson, as well. Iloi Nishmas, her father, Yosef Dover, Ben Harold, who the Shloshim is today. Thank you as well to our sponsor, Karen Joseph. Thank you as well to our sponsor, Terry Woodruff, Le'iloi Nishmat. That should be an uplifting of the soul of Yocheved Bela Bat Yaakov the Marian. Also, thank you to our sponsor, Bobby Markov as well. And this year is also sponsored Le'iloi Nishmas, Ariana Hodaya Bat Meir V'Sara, and Ruth Bat Avigdor, and Yitzhak Ben Avram HaKohen, Leah Bat Shlomo HaKohen, and also want to give some props to my daughter Yiska Deutsch for making the beautiful poster that went out. There you go. So props to my daughter Yiska, who may or may not join Camp Haley this summer. We'll see what happens. Okay, so fine. So thank you for everyone for being here. Quick intro for those who don't know me. My story is like this. My name is Eli Deutsch. I'm originally from a place called Teaneck, New Jersey. New Jersey was so amazing. I left and I made the move to the Holy Land. And there I was, having made the move to the Holy Land, and I'm wandering around the streets of the old city of Jerusalem. And I bump into a few people I know from Toronto, Canada. Me and them get to talking. With them, there was this other young lady. Me and her get to talking. And what do you know, to make a short story shorter, me and this young lady, we end up getting hitched. We end up getting married. And so it just goes to show you that some people go to the old city of Jerusalem for God, other people for the ladies. And since then, thank God, we've been blessed to live in a bunch of locations in Israel. We lived a couple of years in Gush Etzion. We lived a couple of years in Beersheba in the south, across the street from Ben Gurion University. We were involved with Jewish outreach and programs for the students on the university campus over there. Now, thank God, we're blessed to actually live back in the old city of Jerusalem for the last 18 years, living in a place overlooking the spot that we met. Beautiful. Sorry, the ladies. I saw the ratio of the ladies. I figured that story would go well. Guys, believe it or not, this is a wonderful story, but this is not why I'm here talking to you today. What brings me here to talk to you today is that when I was growing up, and maybe some of you guys can relate to this, when I was growing up, anything I ever heard about Judaism was a lot about the what's of Judaism and the hows of Judaism, what to do, how to do it. But like, why on earth should I be involved in this? Why on earth should I care? Why on earth might this Jewish stuff actually make a difference in my life? Somehow those whys were always passed over. And so growing up, this bothered me. And so when I had the opportunity, I wanted to check some of this Jewish stuff out for myself. So I went to Israel and started searching out these things and searching out these questions, right? These philosophical questions, like, why should I believe in this? Why should I believe in that? Why should I believe there's a God? Why should I believe God gave the Torah to the Jewish people? Why should I believe that the oral tradition is legit and relevant? And so as I searched out people, places, programs that could go into some of this information and actually found some rational basis for why we believe what we believe. So then my questions evolved from the philosophical whys to more spiritual whys. Okay, so but still, why do we do this particular thing in this particular way in Judaism? What difference does that really make? And that led me more to the teachings in Hasidut and more Kabbalistic side of things that seem to touch more on those kinds of questions. And so basically that's my story. And this is what I'm involved with up until then.
Turn the camera on. She said that you can't see the Zoom.
Can't see the Zoom. Can you guys see me?
Yeah, we could see you.
Okay, perfect. So tell her to turn her camera on. So wonderful. So where were we? Right, the beginning. So anyway, so that's my story. That's what I'm involved with, is giving over a little bit of the whys, whether it be from the philosophical perspective or the spiritual perspective. So today we are going to go into the topic of Israel, the heart of every Jew. And we're going to talk a little bit really about the connection between the land of Israel and the people of Israel. And let's just be very clear. Quick disclaimer. We're talking here today. It's going to be a question. It's going to be about the spiritual connection between the land of Israel and the people of Israel. We're not talking here about the political side of things, not getting into the political side of things. So quick disclaimer, we're not talking about that. We're talking about the spiritual connection between the land of Israel and the people of Israel. All right. Are we ready?
Yes.
Perfect. Okay. Awesome. So, and feel free, my friends, to chime in at any time. Thoughts, questions, ideas. Don't be shy, okay? Perfect. Yeah, I know some people here won't be shy. I'm not worried about it. Anyone else who's shy, if you're feeling a little bit reserved, held back, insecure, self-conscious, so perhaps our host will bring out some alcoholic beverages for us to. There we go.
Nobody else
There we
drinks,
go.
so you might as well.
There we go. Okay. Wow, these are very holy bottles we have over there. Look at that. Okay, so here we go. Okay. So here's the thing. If we want to understand this connection between the land of Israel and the people of Israel, so we're going to want to understand, what do we mean by land? What do we mean by people? And what do we mean by Israel? If we get to the essence of those things, what we're going to find really is that it's a foregone conclusion, the connection between the land of the Jews and the Jews, right? The land of Israel and the people of Israel. So, but we need to understand the essence of things. And so in order to understand the essence of things, again, if we want to get to the essence of what we mean by land, essence of what we mean by people, essence of what we mean by Israel, we need to understand, okay, how do we get to the essence of anything according to Judaism, according to the spiritual side of Judaism? And so there's two possible ways to do that. Okay, way number one is where it shows up in the Torah, in particular, the first time it shows up in the Torah. That is considered to be the place from which springs forth, really, we can understand the essence of what this thing is or what this word is. However, that would involve us getting into all sorts of deeper discussions and going into specifics. And I figure we'll take the hack. Version, which is path number 2. And path number 2 of how do we get to the essence of anything is Jewishly, is if we go to the name of the thing. That in the name of the thing lies the essence of the thing, right? So name in English, name in Hebrew is Shem, right? So Shem is really connected to the Hebrew word Sham, which means there, because in the name of the thing lies the there of the thing, right? The name of the thing. That's also why, one reason why a soul is called Nishama, because the direction of the soul, the there of the soul is connected to the name of the person, right? This is also why it's important to have, for a Jew to have a Jewish name. It's connected and gives the path and the direction for the soul. That's exactly right. Now, also, you see this right at the beginning of the Torah. The beginning of the Torah starts off, Bereshit bara Elokim et hashamayim v'et haaretz. In the beginning, God created the heavens and the earth, right? Look a little closer, though. Bereshit bara Elokim. In the beginning, God created. And then you have the word et. Now, et translates in English as? Doesn't really translate as the, because hashamayim, the heavens. The hey is the. What's et? It doesn't mean anything. That's the true answer. The true translation is in English, it doesn't mean anything. Now, hold on a second. The infinite God puts the word et in the Torah. Could it be that he just put it there for no reason? No. So it cannot be. So this is exactly the idea, and based on this, we understand that every et in the Torah.
Stuff.
Look at this. We got a Hasidic master, a wizard over here. That's going to be my answer here. Just one second. But every et in the Torah comes to add a little something. Okay. And so the Maggid of Mezrich, one of the great Hasidic masters, says that this et right here at the beginning, Bereshit bara Elokim, in the beginning, God created et. Et is hinting to Aleph to Taf, the Hebrew language, like you'd say in English from A to Z or from A to Z. So Aleph to Taf, the Hebrew language in the beginning, Bereshit bara Elokim, in the beginning, God created et. That from Aleph to Taf, he created the Hebrew language, and then he uses the Hebrew language in order to create the Shamayim and the Aretz, the heavens and the earth. And this is we see in the creation story that one angle on the creation story is that Hashem created the world with speech. God said, "Let there be light." And there was light, right? So that the thing is an expression of the speech, and the speech is at the root of the thing, right? And so the easiest, best example we see this is, how do you say to speak in Hebrew? Lidaber. How do you say a thing in Hebrew? Davar, right? So it's the same word essentially, right? That the speech is at the root of the thing, and the thing is an expression of the speech. Okay, so if I want to understand, what do we mean by land? What do we mean by people? And what do we mean by Israel? I'm going to look, one way I can do this is by looking at the word for land, looking at the word for people, looking at the word for Israel, and getting to the depth of what that word is teaching me. Are we ready?
Yeah.
So here it goes. Firstly, l'chaim, everybody.
Bye.
Okay. So we're going to start at the top. We're going to start by people. Okay. So the original person was called, anybody? Adam. Okay. So if you look at the word for the person Adam, you see that it breaks down to Aleph and then the word Dam. What's Dam? Oh, blood. And of course, Aleph is one, and one, of course, in Judaism is Hashem. So what is a person? It is exactly this: flesh and blood, Dam, with a spark of godliness with the Aleph. Yeah. Wow. So this is the concept of a person. And of course, the goal, of course, is that we're going to go ahead and live out the soul side and use the blood, the flesh and blood side as the vehicle for the soul. Now, let's go a little bit deeper into this, right? Because the truth is that there's also something, quote unquote, on top of the person and something, quote unquote, underneath the person. Let's start underneath. Below the person, in terms of spiritual stature, is the animal. Okay, how do we say animal in Hebrew? Yeah. Well, we're going to go with behema. Bachaya also is a kind of animal as well, wild animal. We're going to go with behema because that's the one that's going to work better for what I want to say. So behema breaks down, says the Maharal of Prague, one of the great Kabbalists, behema breaks down to ba-ma. In it, what is there? Rhetorical question, meaning to say that animal, what you see is what you get, that physical thing that it is, the physical desires that it has, the emotions that are attached to it, whatever it is, that is what it's going to, whatever it feels, that is what it's going to do. There's no higher thing, like with a person has that too. A person has what we might call an animal soul. A person has that animal side to them too, but they also have on top of that a neshama elokit, a nefesh elokit, a human soul. So the person has the feelings, the physicality, and the emotions of the animal side as well. But then the human being, though, can go ahead and choose something beyond that, right? And that's the animal. So that's the animal that's below the person. Okay. So the animal it has its feelings. It doesn't have really a choice to go above that or beyond that. Right. Now let's look above the person for a second. Above the person, we have the concept of an angel. An angel. Now, whatever your picture of angel isn't so important. Maybe you have you're picturing with some wings on its back or a circle over its head. That's not really that important. For our purposes here, the angel is a being that's completely spiritual. Okay. Completely spiritual, knows what it's supposed to do, and goes ahead and therefore goes ahead and does it, right? Now, how do you say angel in Hebrew? Angel in Hebrew is malach. Malach breaks down to malay and then the letter kaf. Now, the letter kaf in Hebrew is also a word. If you expand it, the letter kaf is also a word. What's kaf in Hebrew? Anybody know? Any Israelis in the house?
Can be.
Yeah. Kaf is right. So kaf is a palm. Modern Hebrew will also use it to mean a spoon as well, because a spoon is in the shape of a palm. So there's a connection there, right? So kaf is a palm. So a malach in Hebrew is malay and then the letter kaf. Malay, palm. Its palms are full, right? Its hands are full. The angel is always actualizing the highest thing that it's supposed to do. It's always doing the thing it's supposed to do. So you have on the two sides of the human being two different things. On the one hand, on the lower side of the, underneath the person, so to speak, the animal doesn't have this higher potential to achieve. And the angel is like on autopilot to achieve that higher thing. The unique thing about the person is that the person stands in the middle. The person stands in the middle and has a potential that maybe it's going to actualize, maybe it won't. By the way, says the Maharal of Prague, this is also why the person is, on the one hand, you see the person is created from the dust of the earth. The person's called on the name dust, earth, right? Adama. Why? Because obviously it shares the same nature, a similar nature as the earth, right? Just like the earth is the same story. The earth is something that on its own, if you could leave the earth alone and it will just be there and it'll be barren, and that's the end of it. However, if you do the proper plowing, proper seeding, proper watering, give it the light that it needs, so then the earth can grow out all sorts of trees and fruits and all sorts of wonderful things. So same thing with the human being. The human being, if the human being doesn't do any work on himself or herself, doesn't do anything to modify their actions, their patterns, their habits, etc., so then they will stay the same way they were before. They will remain, quote unquote, barren as a person. However, if a person does the proper plowing, midot refinement, the proper seeding, getting education, the proper watering, Torah, the proper light, maybe mystical Torah, Kabbalistic Torah, etc., so then the person can grow beautiful things from that person, beautiful fruits of self-actualization, right? So this is what a person is at the core in the word Adam. Person is this idea of growth. The person is this idea of putting the spiritual and using the physical as a vehicle for the spiritual. And so this is the idea of the human being, that the human being is about the journey to make higher choices, actualize potential, whether that be with himself as well as the world. Okay, so we have person. Okay, now we have, what do we mean by person? Next question, what do we mean by land? What do we mean by land? So let's see. How do we say land? Again, right back to our system. How do we say land in Hebrew?
Eretz.
We're going to go with Eretz. Perfect. Eretz. So again, let's break down the word Eretz for a second. Eretz is Aleph Ratz. What does Ratz mean? Run. And so Aleph again, what's Aleph in Judaism? One. What's one in Judaism is Hashem. So what are we saying here? We're saying that the human being is all about this idea of building, of growing, of the journey to make higher choices. Where is the location where the human being is going to be involved in that journey? In the Eretz, in this world, in this land. Ratz he's on a journey. He's running. He's on a journey. What kind of journey is it though? It's an Aleph journey. It's a godly journey. It's a journey for growth. It's a journey to ascend. It's a journey of connection to Hashem, right? And by the way, in that journey, there are numerous destinations along the way, right? He has to run an errand. She has to go to this place. She has to go to that place. There are many destinations. Again, one word we have for destination that we actually mentioned already is sham, right? So a person has many different theirs to go in their life. But what is the ultimate destination of all destinations on this world? When a person leaves this world, right? So what we might say is sham, there, in plural. Shamayim. Shamayim is sham in plural. The there of all theirs, the destiny of all destinies, right? And so, interestingly enough, we find that it says in Pirkei Avot, and I'm paraphrasing here, one moment in the next world is greater, or the enjoyment of one moment in the next world is greater than all of the moments in this world. And one moment in this world, a good action, is greater than all the moments in the next world. So what's this phrase about, right? It's phrases like this that keep the rabbi in business all these generations, right? But let's get into it. Let's get into it a little bit. So if I want to take a religious perspective here, who would have thought that would be the one I would take? If I want to take a religious perspective here, the first part makes sense. One moment in the next world of limitless basking in the glory of the infinite is going to be greater than all of the moments in this finite where we're locked into the body and there's physical limitations and there's all sorts of limitations of our perception. So fine, that makes sense. But what about the other side? What about the side that says one moment in this world is greater than all the moments in the next world? How do we explain that? So I'm going to give you how. You ready? Very simple. Because here in this world of non-clarity, in this world of action, this is the place where I can make a move here. I can do something positive here today, and that elevates the experience elevates the experience of the other side. Meaning to say that spiritual moment of basking in the glory of the infinite, that is the domain of experience. This is the domain of journeying. So this is the place where I can go ahead and go from being a rasha to a tzaddik, from a wicked person to being a righteous person. And actually, I can go back a few times in one day. That I can do here. In a world of shamayim, where things are less concealed, where the truth is clear, then there's less choice to be made. So there's less movement to have there. So the point is that this space called land is the place where that journey is happening. That journey where real choices are happening, where grand choices are happening, right? And so what is the concept of land? Land, at least as we've explained it thus far, right? Land is compared to the heavens is all about this concept of the journey of growth is happening here. That's one aspect of land. I want to share with you, though, another aspect of land, right? Because what we just said now is land compared to the heavens. But I want to give you another aspect of land, and that is land compared to the sea, right? When land compared to the sea, so land has the quality of permanence, and the sea has the quality of wavering. Let's talk about it for a second. L'chaim again, guys. Okay. So there's a Kabbalistic concept that actually, I believe, also exists in the non-Jewish world as well, that basically says like this, that everything is made up, everything in this physical world is made up of chomer and surah. Chomer and surah, a material and form. Okay, let's explain what we mean by this for a second. This table right here, let's assume it's wooden table. I don't know. Let's humor me, okay? Let's assume it's a wooden table. All right. So that means that the material, the material is wood, and the form of the thing is tableness, right? So that means to say the form is that concept of the vision, the concept of the mold, right? The path, it's the end point, the vision, the direction. The wood is the thing that brought that into actualization, right? Does that make sense?
Yep. Not to me.
Yes, but not to you. Thank you.
To me, yes.
Oh, to you, yes. Okay, good. I got that backwards. Fine. So one more time. The form is the concept of the vision, the direction, knows where it's supposed to go. The material is the concept of it brings it. Okay. I hope it all goes well. So let's understand this, right? Let's understand this. That means everything in this world needs both of those, right? Okay, so let's get into this a little bit. Okay, so for example, there's an idea, actually I'll quote the Maharal again, that he says that stubbornness is a spiritual quality. Stubbornness is a spiritual quality. Some people here feeling good about themselves all of a sudden. Stubbornness is a spiritual quality. Let's understand why. So hold on a second. Why does stubbornness then get a bad rap, right? Well, let's explain. right? Because usually when we talk about stubbornness, really what we mean is people who are stubborn about the wrong things. Ready? Let me use a different word with you guys for a second. You ready? Principled. Oh, that feels much better. But really, principled is just stubborn about the right things, right? And so why is stubbornness why is that considered a spiritual thing? Because imagine everything in the world is pushing against you. You have a certain thing that you believe is the right thing to do, and everything in the world is pushing against you. Your situation is pushing against you. Your peer group is pushing against you, etc. So the natural thing, keyword natural thing, is to just go along and go with the flow. You're able to go beyond what's natural and continue to do that thing and stick by your guns. You're getting outside of what's natural. The natural thing is to just go with the flow, blow away with the winds of change. But no, you're standing strong with that. You're overriding that. You're blazing a trail through that, right? That is spiritual. You're going beyond what's natural. Are you with me so far?
Yes.
Okay. So now, right, I give you an example, by the way. Example, there is a theme or a saying by the mailmen of the world. At least there used to be. And the theme would go something along the lines of this: neither rain nor snow nor hail would stop them from getting the mail done. I don't know the rest of the phrase. But the point is that they are being spiritual in that moment. They're being stubborn. They're being, quote unquote, spiritual about mail delivery. Yes?
Shall stop these steadfast couriers from the swift completion of their appointed round.
Whoa. Whoa. Okay. Whoa. That was something. Now listen. So, and by the way, let's flip this just for 1 second. What is, say the Kabbalists, what is the biggest example of the opposite of this? What is the biggest example of chomer, of material that we have? Anybody know?
Money.
Good guess. But let's leave that aside. You guys are. What do we mean by, again? What do we mean by chomer? The opposite of this. The opposite of this. Chomer is going to be something that doesn't have a direction, right? So it would be the opposite.
Phones.
You guys. That depends what you do with it, but that's a good example. But let's get. I'm going to get a little more ancient than the phones. Okay. So the Kabbalists, the Kabbalists explain that water is the example of what we mean by chomer, material. Why? Because it has no shape, it has no direction, right? Kind of like you on a phone. Yes, doom scrolling. Yes, not you personally, of course, just people. But the ultimate example of chomer is water. Why? Because it has no shape, right? I put it in here, it takes on the shape of this. I put it into this. Oh, where did this come from? Well, I put it into this. Okay, I could spike the water also. Okay, fine. So I'm taking this very seriously. This is the more serious part of it. Okay, good. So where were we? Right, I got distracted. The water, yes. So for this reason, okay. So by the way, based on this, think about this a second. How do you say water in Hebrew in singular? Guys, speaking of guys, in singular. May. So some people might say May, like you have May Eden, for example, is a company in Israel, but really that's waters of Eden. Even May is not singular. Here we go. You're right. It was a trick question. There's no way to say water in Hebrew in singular. It's always plural. It's always plural. Thank you. But what about the rest of the cup? You're going to drink with me? Okay, good. So, I don't want to offer him. We have. Good, guys. If anybody else wants, I heard it has. You can't go wrong. You can't go wrong with this guy on the cover. This is going to be good. Yeah. This is May Eden. This is the real May Eden. Okay, fine. So, firstly, L'chaim, Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam shekol niyeh b'dvaro. Amen. Okay, so the water. What were we saying again? Water, something about that. Singular. Right, so that's a good example showing you that it has no singular. It's not the concept of tsura. The whole concept of tsura, of form, is the concept of direction. Water is the example of something that is moved, not as something that is a mover, right?
But not ice.
Hold on one second. Let's see. That's the whole question here, right? That's the whole question. Guys, think about this. Once we understand this, think about this. What was the heyday? What was the heyday? What was the high time? What was the time when water was at its peak strength in the world?
Noah on the table.
With the flood, exactly. Noah and the flood. Think about it. What does the Torah say about that time right before the flood came? What does it say? It says, Malay haaretz chamas. The world was full of distortion. The world was full of thievery. There was all sorts of inappropriate relationships. People were going with, people were sleeping with animals. They were writing up marriage contracts between people and dogs, right? Any allusion to the moment is all coincidental. But what? Say again?
Contract?
That the Midrash does say that happened. Yes. So, and so what does it mean? So it says what was it? It was a situation where there was no direction. There were no boundaries. There was no direction. There was a total loss of that. So then that's the spiritual reality. What happens as a result of that? Water takes over where land is supposed to be. You hear? There's a loss of direction, so water takes over, right? So let's flip it now back to the other way. What about land? Land, which is where water ends. Land, which is where there's yishuv, where there's civilization. What was the time? What was the heyday of land, which is going to be the concept of form? What was the heyday of land? What was the time where land took over, even where water is typically supposed to be? Someone just said it. What did you say? No. It wasn't supposed to be in the mountain altogether. Someone else said it here, though. The splitting of the sea. The splitting of the sea, where the water usually is. So what is said about that? What is said about that? We said today in Hallel, it says, Hayam in Psalms, in Tehillim, it says, Hayam ra'a vayanos. The sea saw and it fled. And the rabbis ask on this, well, what did the sea see that caused it to make a space to part and in order to open the door to the Jews going ahead and crossing the sea? And so the rabbis teach that the sea saw the bones of Joseph, that they were taking Joseph's body from Egypt to be buried in the land of Israel. And when the sea saw the body of Joseph, the sea parted ways. Now, why? What's the big deal? Why specifically the body of Joseph? But if we understand what we're saying here, then it makes sense, because who was Joseph? Who was Yosef? Yosef was the pinnacle tzaddik in the Zohar. Why? Because he was the one who was sent away from the holy enclave of the Jewish people. He was sent away from the Jewish family, and he was ultimately sold down into Egypt. And we see that he has all sorts of scenarios. He's put into jail in Egypt, and we all know what happens in jail. And he was able to stand strong with his Jewish principles, even in that lowest of the low. Ultimately, he's put to the highest of the high. He is put to be basically running the show over Egypt, and there too, he had no shortage of opportunities to be to abandon those Jewish values and to be with whoever he wants, whenever he wants. And guys, on top of that, I heard he wasn't too bad looking either, right? Which doesn't help. So, depends.
It doesn't help.
I was saying it doesn't help, but it depends how you're looking at it. But anyway, and he stands strong with his Jewish values, even in all of these different kinds of circumstances. He was the ultimate surah personality. He had a form, he had a direction, he had a belief, he had a concept of what is true, and he blazes a trail through the seas that are storming inside of him. So my friends, that is spiritually what Joseph is, and then it shows up to the sea that needs splitting. The sea sees Joseph and now gets out of the way for Joseph, because that's what Joseph is. And ultimately land, dry land shows up where water is typically supposed to be. Do you get that? Are you with me? So this is the concept of land as well. On the one hand, we said before that land is that place of that journey for growth. Now we're also saying that land is that concept of having that drive for spirituality, that drive for being able to stand real for who we are and what life's about. Are you with me so far? Okay. So if we understand that what a person is all about, what a person is all about is about being on that journey for growth, and that space to do that and increase it is in land. So now what do we mean? Let's get to that third part. What do we mean by Israel? So again, we're going to look at the word for Israel, but before we do that, I want to give you guys a principle, and that is, it says in the Gemara, it says in the Talmud, it says, Chochma bagoyim ta'amin, Torah bagoyim al ta'amin. That if someone were to tell you that there's wisdom among the nations, believe them. It's true. That every nation has something to contribute. But Torah bagoyim, but if someone were to tell you that there is Torah amongst the nations, how to apply these things in a way that connects you to Hashem, how to deal with that, what is objective morality, all of that kind of stuff. No. That would not be accurate, because that is the contribution of the Jewish nation. That is their contribution, right? And so this is the idea, or one idea, of the word Yisrael. What does Yisrael break down to? Very simply, Yisrael, Yashar El, straight to God. How do I go ahead and take the different gifts that the nations of the world bring to this world? Okay, they're beautiful. How do I go ahead and now connect it to its purpose? How do I connect it to something that is objectively valuable? How do I connect it to its ultimate goal, and reveal Hashem through this device? Reveal Hashem through whatever this thing is, right? Instead of getting swept away by the phone, to go ahead and connect that thing, that device, to, and use it for something that is objectively good, right? Some people like to say how they have a kosher phone. I try to say that I have a Mahadran phone. I take it and I hopefully use it for the good. Hopefully, on a good day at least. Okay. So this is the idea. This is the idea of what we are doing here, right? And this is the concept of what the Jewish people are here to do, to enlighten, take those things and then bring them to light. What do we mean by light, first of all, right? A lot of people like to talk about this, certainly in Kabbalistic circles, the light of God, the light of the infinite. What does light mean? Light means it illuminates what is there. You're able to see what's really there. What is the light? So actually, you can see this in the word for light. Light in Hebrew is or is the letters Aleph, Vav, Resh, right? We already said Aleph is the concept of one. What's one in Judaism? God. Vav is the concept of connection. That's right. Vav is just like you put Vav in the Hebrew in the sentence. You put Vav, which means and or. So it connects two sentence fragments into one sentence. Also, Vav is a word in Hebrew in the Torah as well. Vav is spelled Vav. It's a word which means a hook. Again, it connects two things together. And then Resh in Hebrew is actually is a word in Aramaic, which is a bounce off of Hebrew. And Resh is the word Rosh in Aramaic, which means head. So literally, the word for light, Aleph, Vav, Resh, breaks down to Aleph, God, Vav, connected, Resh to the head, God connected to the head, God consciousness, being God aware. So this is the concept of what we mean by light spiritually, by light Jewishly, is this idea of what is it? Seeing what's really there. What's really there? Hashem is the truth of what's really here. This is what it means to be in a state of light. By the way, also the opposite is true as well. Darkness. How do you say darkness in Hebrew? Choshech. Choshech also the same letters as the word shachach, which means to forget, because to forget the reality of Hashem, to forget the fact that you're a soul, not just a body, to forget what you're doing here, to forget your purpose. You're living in a state of choshech. You're living in a state of spiritual darkness, not clear on reality, right? And so the point of the Jew, of course, is supposed to be an or lagoyim, the one who's illuminating the reality of Hashem to those who need that information, right? And by the way, you also see this You also see a similar idea in another word for a more modern word for Jew, which is Yehudi, right? And Yehudi comes from the word Yehuda, Judah, right? And if you look at that word Yehuda, it's if you look at the word Yehuda, Yehuda actually breaks down to the letters Yud and Hey and Vav and Hey with a Dalid. A Dalid always means, often means, the concept of someone who does not dalut, someone who does not have, right? Dal in Hebrew is the poor person. Like we sometimes refer to Hashem as Ozer Dalim, the one who helps the poor person. So Dal is the concept of poor, just like also the way you spell the letter Dalit. If you were to spell it out as a word, times we pronounce it like duh at the end, Dalid, but that's not really how it's supposed to be pronounced. It's Dalit Lamid Taf. In all of the books says Dalit Lamid Taf, and Dalet, that's how we write it. So it's also the same word as Delet, poor, because a poor person, God forbid, a poor person needs to go from Delet to Dal, needs to go from door to door, right? And so what is the Jew, Yehuda, is Yud and Hey and Vav and Hey, bringing the God to the Dalid, to the one who does not have it, right? And this is, of course, the role of the Jew to illuminate this world. And this is, of course, really what Tikkun Olam means, right? There's a whole PR campaign trying to reframe what we mean by Tikkun Olam and trying to basically mean whatever the Democratic Party is talking about at this particular moment, we're going to somehow call all of this Tikkun Olam, right? But Tikkun Olam simply means Litaken, what it comes from a phrase, Litaken Olam b'malchut Shaddai. You got to go to the Hillels on campus, you'll see what I mean. Litaken Olam b'malchut Shaddai, it comes from. Tikkun Olam is to fix the world that it should be a kingdom of heaven. What does that mean? It means to say that the reason why we look around this world and we call it world, as opposed to just being like God, by seeing the reality of the infinite being here, the only way we call this world as opposed to God is because there's a hiddenness of the clarity that really it's all Hashem. And this is why, one reason why the world is called world, because the world in Hebrew is olam. Olam is the Hebrew word he'elem. Olam is the Hebrew word he'elem or ne'elam, which means hidden or disappeared. The only way we're calling this world a world as opposed to just being like Hashem is because innate in this world is a hiddenness and a disappearance of the clarity that really it's all Hashem, right? And so Tikkun Olam is to fix that hiddenness of the world, right? This is what we're supposed to be doing here as Jews. And so anyway, this is the story. And just like we have this with the Jew as a people, so we have a foundational Kabbalistic concept that's said in the Sefer Yetzirah, one of the original books of Kabbalah written by Abraham Avinu, that says basically that the world was created in 3 dimensions. Olam, Shana, Nefesh. Olam, Shana, Nefesh, which loosely is referring to Olam is space, Shana is time, and Nefesh is being. That whatever you have in one, you have in the other. It's the same system, just parallel. By the way, one of the teachings in main foundational teaching in Kabbalah, the reason why Kabbalah is called Kabbalah, yes, it's from the word lekabel, to receive, because receiving the deeper teachings are being received by the student from the teacher. But also, Kabbalah is from the Hebrew word makbil, which means parallel. Because one of the foundational principles of all Kabbalistic thought is that everything here in this physical world is a parallel to a deeper spiritual reality. So the same thing works here. You have whatever system you have in terms of time, you have in terms of space, you have in terms of people, you have in terms of entity, you have in terms of the nation, right? And so just like the Jewish people are here to illuminate in this way and to connect the means to the ends, to connect whatever the gifts of the world are to their ultimate purpose in terms of spirituality and revealing Hashem, right? So too, also, the world is going to exist like this as well, right? The world is going to exist like this as well. And this is the concept of the land of Israel, right? The concept of the land of Israel is to be that place. What do we mean, right? What do we mean, just to be clear, what do we mean by the concept of the Holy Land? So a lot of times people think it means that like Hashem is more there. Hashem is more there. Hashem is more, like God is more there than New York. But I have news for you though. Hold on a second, right? When I was growing up, there was a song that I heard and it went a little like this. It said that God, Hashem was up, up, down, down, left, right, all around, here, there, and everywhere is where he can be found, right? That Hashem is infinite. So hold on a second. You're going to try to chop, slice and dice God up. He's more here. He's less there. Hold on a second. Hashem is beyond all this. So how do we explain this? We explain this by saying like this. We explain it like this. We say like this. We say one time. Imagine that we put a super duper advanced satellite into outer space. Its beams exist 100% everywhere on Earth. And then me and you walk outside, and you've got 5 bars of reception on your phone, and I only have 3 bars of reception. Now, how is that possible? We have the ultimate satellite beaming down everywhere 100% equally. How is it possible that you got 5 bars of reception and I only have 3 bars of reception?
You go to the Hashem Yeshiva.
I don't know what you're talking about. You're too religious
So
for
your
me.
phone hasn't accepted Hashem.
My phone hasn't, right, exactly. So it's the phone, it's the receiving device, right? You have Verizon, I'm holding by T-Mobile, right? I'm in trouble, right? So this is the story, right? Meaning to say, so what do we mean by the Holy Land? It's not that there's more God in that place. It's that the receiving device, the antenna, is more up in the Holy Land, is more conducive to that concept of holiness, right? This is also, to a certain extent, this is also the concept of the Beit HaMikdash. The Beit HaMikdash is referred to in Tanakh a couple of times as the neck of the world. What does it mean, the neck of the world? It means just like the imagine what's it called, the lower side underneath the neck of the person, right? It's basically the same as the animal. You have physical things, you have emotional feelings, right? But above the neck is where all the spiritual stuff is happening. All of those things that are reflective of what's different between a person and an animal, right? Which, by the way, that's a little hint there. Anytime you see people doing things or emphasizing things that animals would never care about or do, good sign that that's coming from the difference between a person and an animal, namely the human soul, right? So consciousness, self-awareness, free will, choice, complex thought, complex speech, all of these things are head-oriented things, reflecting the soul. They're all head-oriented things. So the neck, the neck is that connection that brings those spiritual things down to the physical side of ourselves, and often also the other way as well. This is the concept of the Beis HaMikdash, right? The Beis HaMikdash is, and that place is the concept of the connection of the spiritual and the physical, bringing heaven down to earth and elevating earth to heaven, right? And so we should understand this is the idea of what the land of Israel is all about. That just as the Jewish people are all about, yes, going ahead and uplifting and being involved in that journey to the point of emphasizing the spiritual, let's understand that this is what the land, the same concept, the same energy of what the land of Israel is all about, right? Very simply, the classic example, and I'll give it to you now, very important, is imagine I were to go ahead and I had an orange seed with me right now, and I were to go outside right here on 80th Street, are we on? We're here, right here on 80th Street, and I was to find myself a patch of dirt there, and I were to plant this orange seed right outside, and I do the proper plowing and seeding and watering. Could I possibly get an orange tree from this orange seed? Answer is yes, I could probably do that. However, if I take that same orange seed and I fly down to Miami, Florida, and I do the same plowing, the same seeding, the same watering over there, what's probably going to happen? I'm probably going to get a fuller version of that orange seed. A fuller version of that orange seed is going to come out and grow out in Florida than what happened over here, than what happened here in New York City. Why? What's the difference?
Florida's the best.
Florida is
sun.
more conducive.
She used a very good word here, the word conducive. Yes, exactly. That the climate of the place in Florida is more conducive to orange tree growing than here in New York. On the other hand, if I wanted to grow a potato, better that I go to Idaho, right? Here's my question for you, though. So just like what we're saying here is like this, just like we have these climates here in the physical world, again, it's simply a parallel of the spiritual. It's simply a parallel of the spiritual. Just like we have different climates which are good for growing different products here in the physical, so also there are climates in the spiritual as well. And so that means to say, imagine I had a Jewish neshama, imagine I had a Jewish soul, imagine I had a Jewish person, and I plant them right here in New York City. And I give them a little bit of midot refinement, and I teach them a little bit of Torah, and I give them some inspiration Could I get a decent Jew here in New York City? Yeah. It could happen. It could happen. However, if I take that same soul and I plant them, that same soul, in the land of Israel, and I give them the same exact situation and conditions, theoretically, I give them the same exact conditions over there, very, very likely that I'm going to grow a fuller version of that Jew in the land of Israel. Why? Because the land of Israel is conducive to growing Jews. The land of Israel is the same energy as the land of Israel is the same energy of what the Jew is all about. Just like it is said in its name, Eretz Yisrael, right? That place of godly running, and in particular, the version that's also involved in attaching Yashar El, going straight to God, attaching everything to its purpose. This is what the Jew is about. This is what the land of Israel is about. And this is ultimately, of course, the connection between the land of Israel and the people of Israel. This is who we are. This is what we are at the core. And we should all be blessed to be able to be there, God willing, very shortly, and be an inspiration from where we need to be.
I have a question also back to the beginning of the thing is what what the thing is and the name is the same. So the land of Israel is the place where Jews can most actively realize their potential.
Exactly.
So
That's what I was trying to say. 100%.
Yeah.
100%.
There you go.
Very good, my friends. Questions, thoughts, ideas?
We loved it.
Baruch Hashem. Appreciate it.
But the question, you're not going to like my question.
I'm not going to like your question. Okay, hold on. Maybe I should shut off the Zoom. No, I'm just kidding. Go ahead. What's your question? Well, hold on. If you're not, hold on. I'm sorry. I'm not ready. Hold on. I'm not ready for your question yet. Hold on.
Why in Eretz Israel there are less people who are religious than everywhere else?
In Eretz Yisrael, Baruch Hashem, there's whether you see it on the media or not, actually you are seeing it, you're seeing the fight against it. There is a revolution of spirituality, of growth. We have to understand where things started from, right? We're missing the big picture. We're stuck in the moment. You have to understand, 100 years ago, 150 years ago, people saying, I'm leaving Poland, I'm leaving Russia to go to Israel. That was basically them making the statement. I know it's hard for us to understand now. That was them making the statement, I'm leaving Judaism. That's what it was back then for most people. Right? That's what it was.
Not for the relatives of mine.
I'm not talking about the relatives of yours. I'm talking about.
Went to B'nai Brak.
Again, I'm going to go with where your relatives, most people. Where your relatives, most people? No. Okay. So most people.
He's talking about uniformity, not the stubbornness, not divine stubbornness.
So what it was we want to start. It's okay. We want to start over. What it was for many people there and the movements that were going on, most of the movements that were going on, the biggest movements that were going on was we want to start a new Jewish people without all this Torah stuff, without those people with the scraggly beards, without Yiddish. And we want to start a new Jewish people we want to reinvent it without the Torah, and we'll be like any other secularized communistic nation. That's what it was at the time. I don't know, Reform the Zionist movement. That's what the masses were doing. Now, hold on a second. Let's understand where we are right now. Back then, your average Joe, or your average Jew at that time was making the statement, I'm going to Israel, was making the statement, I'm moving away from Judaism. Now, you tell me, when people say that they want to look more into and connect to their Judaism, where do they go?
Israel.
So a lot of those people are. So let's understand. We have to take one sec. We have to take zoom out, and understand and recognize that a few years ago, the number one requested song on Israeli radio was a song by a guy Yishai Ribo called Sibat Hasibot, the cause of all causes, meaning God. You have to understand that the people back then, they were trying to solve anti-Semitism, right? A land without a people for a people without a land. Well, that didn't work. That didn't work. They were trying to leave, do away with the Judaism of old, so to speak. Now you have more people learning Torah there than ever before. You have people looking to connect to their Judaism. They go there. So that was also on. So we have to have hakarat hatov for the Mesirat Nefesh. We have to have recognition and appreciation for the self-sacrifice of the people who made those moves and who did set up things over there, yes, but we also have to understand, if you zoom out, you see that it's that generation by generation. This is also, by the way, part of what the protests were about before October 7th, because they see, the people who are pulling strings see what's happening over there, and they're trying to stop it and undermine it, right? So you have to understand that it is moving in that direction. And sometimes when we talk about any particular specific Jew, it's harder to see. Fair enough. But if you take a zoom out, Bezrat Hashem, we're moving in that direction. You can even see it, especially over the last couple of years as well. Go ahead. She's gonna jump out of her socks here if we don't hear from her. Yes.
1920s.
Yep.
I had relatives who
Yep.
were who were attacked. And one of my father's relatives was one of the few survivors in that pogrom in the north. What was it? Where was it?
The riots by Hebron, 1927, no?
Yeah.
1929.
So
Yeah.
there were from people then.
Sure. There were.
Well, there were always from people.
Yes, of course. Going back to the times of the Baal Shem Tov students and the Gross students.
There were
Of
always
course.
from people.
Of course. 100%. That doesn't conflict what I'm saying here.
Yeah.
Right? I'm talking about the masses and the bigger picture. Other questions, thoughts, ideas. What else we have here, my friends? Okay, fine. We'll close off the talk, but we'll also continue to hang out, chill, talk, mingle, schmooze. Okay?
Maharal makes this big point of the surah and the Homer.